Good evening. Good evening. Welcome to the Keeping It Real Conversation Show with your host, Camila, aka Sunshine. It is Tuesday, April 18, 2023. We are live here on Facebook. We're live on Twitch. We're live on Twitter. We're live at the YouTube channel. Please like, share, and subscribe. It is the name of the show. I am so glad to be in the land of the living. It could have been another way, but thank God we are here tonight. As I always state, I have some of the dopest and greatest people ever on my show. Tonight is no different than any other time. We have amazing talent here tonight, and I'm so excited to have this young man here gracing the stage, as we say. First, before we get into his bio, of course, I believe in 6 degrees of separation. You're literally one person away, one advice away, one help away from where you need to be in your destiny. It has been proven over and over again since I started this show almost 2 years ago. So tonight we have Chris Weaver. I named him The Voice, as he goes as CJW. And I'm going to get into his bio real quick. You want to say hello?
Oh, hey. Hi, guys. How are you? It's good to be here. Thank you for having me.
So, Chris Weaver is a musician and performing artist from Long Island, New York, rising to prominence through his appearance on the hit TV show NBC's The Voice. Chris has begun, so I want you to know, you might want to tune this up a little bit. Chris has begun to delve into the world of studio recording as he is gearing up to release a new project. His voice is truly one of a kind, and we're going to find out. Displaying vocal flexibility and acrobatic runs that are nothing like you hear in music today. And I can't wait. Chris's voice is truly a powerhouse, while somehow able to remain warm, raw, edgy, tender, and controlled. We will see that tonight. Again, Chris grew up heavily involved in the choir. I understand. In other singing groups, developing love for music at a young age. As an adult, Chris performed all over the country, making connections and honing his skills as a vocalist. Chris eventually made it into The Voice. Oh my God. Turning all 4 chairs. Come on, somebody. Turning all 4 chairs in his initial appearance in front of the judges. Chris chose Jennifer Hudson as his mentor, who guided him along the competition as he finished in the top 24. Come on, somebody. Come on, top 24.
Yes.
Chris was also the first competitor to ever be brought back to the competition before to perform again, performing in the season finale alongside music superstar Jessie J. Almost 2 years after The Voice, Chris recorded and released his single "Mary Did You Know," which won awards in 2020 for Best New Song. Chris then dropped in 2021 "Crying For." Afterwards, signing to SoundHeard Records and committing to a full-length studio LP. Chris has since been working on a studio LP and released his single "Take Your Time" on October 14th in 2022. Chris recently finished recording a project on the iconic, is it Abbey?
Abbey Road, yep.
Studios, and is currently touring with legendary musician, songwriter Booker T. Jones and the MGs. So tonight, you guys, I'm so excited in my spirits. We're going to welcome Chris Weaver to the show.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Yes. So I am so glad to have you tonight. I'm so glad that we were able to schedule a time to sit down and have a conversation. I let people know this is not an interview. I don't do interviews.
Okay.
They're conversations, and we find out that we have more in common than we are different. And so, let's get into the conversation about this wonderful voice of yours. So let's go back to the beginning. When did you know that you had something special?
So I often tell people, I said I watched videos of me singing when I was a kid, and I remember from a particular family reunion and doing the spoken part of "Reason Why We Sing" for by Kirk Franklin, and I was like, maybe somebody should have said maybe to be an usher or maybe be on the the greeting committee because maybe singing is not your thing because I watch it and I cringe. But I'd never forget being 8 years old and being called up to sing in church and singing "Precious Lord, Take My Hand," and I would never forget the response that I got, and I literally remember thinking, oh, okay, so we might have something here,
Mhm.
and so I began to sing at church, and when my pastor would go out to preach, I would sing with him, and I was always in choir in school, and so then it just it just developed, and then I finally realized this is really what I want to do, so.
So how are you in school? Like, I know we go through our changes, especially in our adolescence. When, hey, today I like hot dogs, tomorrow I like hamburgers, and we switch up a lot. So, how are you going through your adolescence? You know, with the voice changes, and did you experience that as well?
I did, so when I was young, I remember being able to sing all parts, any part in a choir part I could sing. Um, and and I also remember like playing, I remember in elementary school taking up instruments. So I remember playing the saxophone at one point for a year, playing the violin, maybe not really playing, but my parents rented it and I kept it in the house. But the one thing that was consistent was singing. And I remember I wanted to do that. And I remember being in the 6th grade and my chorus teacher telling me, she said, you kind of sound like 7 people when you sing. And I think when most kids would think that's like, take that as like a hurtful thing. I was kind of like,
Yeah.
really? So yeah, I always sang. I always was involved in music, and so I loved it.
So with her saying, "Hey, you sound like you're 7 people," is that saying like your voice was so full?
I think that, I mean, that's what she was saying, because I think I was just I think I amplified it a little more than or a lot more than the rest of my peers, and so I think that stood out. Because I mean, in 6th grade, you don't really know. I mean, I guess at the time you can, but I don't think I really knew how to control that because I wasn't taking any
Yeah.
proper vocal lessons or anything like that. So
Mhm.
so yeah.
So we're moving along, and we're in high school. Are you a part of like Glee, choir? What are you doing? Any of that?
So in high school, I'm a part of we're a part of the chorus, and I'm also a part of. I actually started a gospel choir in my high school because we had none, and I was like, we have a lot of people who sing in churches here, so we need to take advantage of that. So I started a gospel choir in my high school. Um, I was also, we had this thing called Operation Pride, which was an organization, and we had the vocal troupe. I was a part of that, and so I remember my junior year of high school. I was like, okay, I'm sick of choral music. I'm done with it. I don't want to do it no more. And I remember I we had to do a solo or something. I just didn't prepare a solo. And the next year I was like, I'm out of it. I'm done. And my mother was so upset with me. And I think I became president of Operation Pride that year. But my mother said, you can't be president of anything since you dropped out of choir. And I was like, oh man. So the first semester of I think it was senior year, going into senior year, the first semester I didn't do choir, and I was absolutely, absolutely miserable. And so by the second semester, I literally had to go to my chorus teacher and I had to beg him to please let me back in the chorus, because I mean, you don't realize how much you can't live without something until you don't have it. And
Yes.
so that was a very, very that was much of a learning experience for me.
Sometimes like you have a inkling of some things that you're gonna do in life. You just don't have that. That is exactly
Hmm.
what you're gonna be doing.
Exactly.
I recently had an opportunity to be a part of a chorus on a production play, and it was the first time I ever auditioned for anything. It was
Hmm.
the first time I ever was on stage as far as outside of a choir. I was like, oh my God, I think I got the bug. So now
Yeah.
it's like, okay, what's the next thing? What am I going to do next? I'm looking forward to that, that now I have this, like, okay, I know what it takes. I know what's inside of me. It stretched me a lot.
Hmm.
Um, I've been getting choirs for since I could probably talk.
Yeah.
So that was something totally different. So I get it. When you have that moment of, okay, this was 2 weeks ago. Now I'm like, so now what am I doing with my time?
Yeah,
I
I
miss
mean,
my family.
it definitely stretches. I mean, because it's such a like growing up and being in gospel choirs. I mean, it's a beautiful thing. I love it, and but there's something different when you're in a choir with choral music, and it's just it's just a different energy, and it's a and so I remember when I wasn't in gospel choir, like when I went to college and I didn't have a gospel choir, I was missing it. But I got the choral fix I needed, and then when I came back and there wasn't no choral fix, but I could find a gospel part singing, so it's just yeah, it's just a beautiful thing in general.
So in your own going through school, and did you major in music or was it something else?
So here's the thing. So I went to college and I'm like, I'm going as a music major. I know that's what I'm doing. And music, if anybody knows music theory, so most classes are Tuesday, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, Tuesday, Thursday. Music theory is the one of the only classes that are 5 days a week, and I music theory. I just could not get it, and it was torture. And I always say I think my professor knew that I was trying, but he saw that I wasn't getting. So he said to me, he said, "I promise to pass you if you promise never to take another music theory class at this college again." And so at that point, I decided, I said, I don't need a degree to perform. This is what I want to do. So I was like, listen, I'll take my C and I will be out. Okay. And which crazy was after that is when I became a part of every vocal ensemble on campus. Even the audition groups I didn't even audition for. I was asked to be in them. And so it was so crazy to me when I stopped and thought about it. Like, I was like, man, this thing is really working. Like, you know, so I kept doing it.
So, we do this too. We'll think like, hey, if I wasn't doing music, if I wasn't involved in music, what would I been doing? So, what was the backup plan to the
Oh,
back?
I've asked this question so many times to myself. So I went to my advisor and I was like, I'm not going to do music, but I remember I was going to be a social worker. I was going to be so I took principles of sociology, and the professor wrote the book. And I don't know if you ever had a professor that wrote the book. It's not easy. So I was like, I hate this. I hate it. I hate it. I hate it. And when I went back to my advisor, he said, well, how about we do something where you can mix music and social science and behavioral science and religion and all that in one. So he said we can, do a general studies major.
Mhm.
Uh, which I'm so glad I did, because after that first class of sociology, all the other classes I loved, absolutely loved. But that gave me a chance to still do music, still do sociology, and still be involved in everything else. And so I ended up doing being a general studies major. And luckily, I went to a liberal arts school that had a 98% chance of a turnover rate of people getting jobs out of school. So I was like, thank you, God. So.
So when you graduate from the school,
I went to Central College. I went to Central College in Pella, Iowa. And I applied to all historically Black colleges and ended up at the furthest thing from it. And I remember when we were taking a tour, somebody said to me, they said, a friend's mother said, would you rather go to a school where there's hundreds of people who do what you do, or would you rather go to a school where you can stand out? And I was like, oh, well, it's very interesting. And I did that. I just said I was homecoming king in college, and I got to sing and travel, and it was amazing. I got to spend some time in London and sing with the London Community Gospel Choir because of it, because I chose to, take a chance and do
Stand
something.
out.
Yeah.
So, usually the moments of standing out, and in my world, we say, you have been chosen for this path, right?
Hmm.
Coming from that background, um, most likely you probably was chosen, not only for the appearance, not only for the voice, that brings people to that moment of, where did you get that from?
Hmm.
Because it ain't giving out normal like that. And to be able to travel to places that most people dream about because of the gifting that God has given you, right?
Hmm.
Not only did you go to London, but what was the process to say, hey, what's my next step? So you're over there, you've graduated. Now what does CJ say to himself, what is next for me? What is it?
I knew once I came back. I went to London my junior year, and I said, after I came back, I said, I'm going back to London. I'm going back to London after school, and because I know that people already know me there, so I can sing there. Um, but financially, that didn't work out, and I actually ended up staying in Iowa, and I had to. They wanted me to take another class for my degree, and I remember I was petitioning it. So at the time when I graduated for that first semester, I didn't have a degree, so I took a job at Subway for a year. And in that time, when I was living in Des Moines, Iowa, and there was a weekly newspaper that came out called Juice Magazine, and it always highlighted a different person every week. And one week I saw that it highlighted this young man, John Cheatham, and it said that he was a singer, and I was like, he's this black guy, and I was like, all right. So I was like, I'm gonna contact him, and I contacted him, and he connected me with a few different people with the Lutheran Church of Hope in West Des Moines, Iowa. And long story short, I ended up coming on as an intern there, and then ended up being there for 3 years, and I ended up became one of the head worship leaders there. And this was one of the 50 fastest growing churches in America at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was just like, again, like, how did this happen? Going from Subway to working at a mega church out there. So that, so my mind was set on that for a while. And then I remember that one year, I like my supervisor was like, okay, like we need to do a little performance eval. I also started a gospel choir there. And he was like, things that you're not working up to par, da, 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 da. And I realized, and then we had to go to the National Worship Leaders Conference. And I didn't want to go. I remember they took a picture, and I'm the only person in there just scouring. And we went, and I remember coming back, and I was so fired up. And I realized that it was just, I was pouring into so many people, but nobody was pouring into me. And so that Worship Leaders Conference changed my life. And so I was there for another year. And then the next year, I had this feeling again, but it was different this time. It was like, okay, it's time to do something different. It's time to move on. And so I did that. And so, when you need to move, but you're not sure what to do. I'm the kind of person where I'm too spontaneous. So I left, and I went to Iowa City for a year, and I wasn't singing, and I was miserable. And so, and I didn't say that I grew up in New York, but I said I would never move back to New York. I was like, I'm just not doing that. And so the opportunity had presented itself to everything worked out right for me to move back to New York. And I was like, okay, we've tried, I've tried, and I've tried, and I've tried to make this thing work here in Iowa, and it's just not working. And this opportunity has come up, so I took it, and I remember I cashed out my 401k, and I moved to New York. So, and it's probably one of the best things I had ever done.
Mm-hmm.
And because I can say I've been here since 2000. I've been back since 2000, and we were trying to figure this out. I think 2016, 2015, and I think I've probably had two on the book jobs. Like I've somehow um, sustained and made it through singing. Only God knows how, but I'm so grateful for it.
So living in Iowa, did you ever have like um any issues there? Like I've you're the first black person.
No, no, I didn't.
I must
uh,
say that on record. You
you
are the
know, I didn't. It was. Honestly, I tell people all the time. I said I think that I think God really was training me for a world stage. Because um, I thought about like some of the interactions I would have back home, as opposed to some of the things and some of the experiences and some of the opportunities and the events that I got to go to in Iowa, things that I probably would have never experienced, if I was stayed in New York, and an audience I would have never experienced. And so I think it really taught me how to carry myself in different situations and in front of different audiences. And and I remember it's so funny how you said people are chosen for certain things, because I remember I said to a friend, I said, let me tell you something. I said, I don't know a lot of my friends from back home who could be here right now and who could do this. So I got so much out of it, and I think because I was open to that, and because I was chosen for that. But it was great. But after 8 years, I was like,
I'm a graciously bow out. It is time to, some of the things that happens in life also, we overstay where we need to be, leaving. And
mhm,
sometimes God gotta
yeah,
let go.
that's exactly what he had to do.
It's time to go. Like, wait, but no, I need you to go somewhere else because there are people waiting on you.
Yeah, because what are you doing? What are you doing in the city for a year that you're not using your gift? What is the purpose of that? Actually, no. Actually, that was a blessing. God did work in that anyway, as well. But it's so funny how we can do our own thing, and he can when we go our own way, he can still say, "Okay, I'm gonna let you stay here for a little bit, but I'm gonna still get the glory out of this."
Absolutely.
So he absolutely did that, and so I want to acknowledge that. And so yeah, it's just it's crazy. This is me telling this whole story right now. I don't think I've sat down and told this. I'm like mind blowing myself.
So usually, and matter of fact, I had this question posed to me today. Like, how do you interview people? How do you? I said, first of all, I don't interview people.
Hmm.
It's me, human, getting to know another human,
Yeah.
and I get a kick out of it because when you start sitting down talking with complete strangers, sometimes you find out that you're more common
Yes.
than you are different. And just off most of the conversation we're having right now, outside of living in Iowa or New York, we have a lot of things in common. And so I just find it amazing that when people start talking about things that you might not hear on a TV show,
Hmm.
or they never really took the time to really understand themselves, and hey, how did I get here? Or I did do that, didn't I?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, we're having the conversation about you and your gifts. Um, so I do have some highlights that I'm going to say,
All right.
and then we're going to get into how we got to the voice.
All right.
And I'm so excited about that because I actually know someone who auditioned and she's waiting for her response.
Oh,
Yeah. So she was a part of the chorus that we just got done with. And so she's waiting to see if she's gonna be able to go.
that
And
is
so I'm
that is always a fun
excited.
but anxious wait.
So some of the highlights of this young man right here is he's a two-time Glam Award winner for Best Vocalist in 2018. Best Music Video, which was Cocoa Butter in 2020. First contestant to return as a talent on the show The Voice. January 2020, he was the winner of the, pronounce that?
Academia.
Yeah, because I wasn't about to mess it up. Yeah, that music award for Best Gospel Christian Song, Mary Did You Know? He's the recipient of the Black Fairy Godmothers Foundation, the Rising LGBTQ Icon Award, NBC's The Voice Top 24, which was season 13, and experience with the world renowned London Community Gospel Choir. So, with that being said, where do I want to go from here? Let's go with what was the process, or did someone say to you, or you had an epiphany like, I am going to try out for The Voice? How did that happen?
Uh, so I mean, before my senior year, I was living in Chicago, and I remember I wasn't working or anything, so I was like, well, and I auditioned for American Idol, and that process was so long and tedious, and so just as when you hear about because the thing is, when you catch wind of things, you're like, okay, well, I mean, if I'm free, why not do that? And so I remember being in Chicago, visiting some friends, and we heard about the Voice audition. So I said, well, I'm gonna do it. I said, hopefully this won't take all day, and we'll get out of there. And I remember the process being very, very quick. And so I auditioned in Chicago one year, and they said, thank you for trying out. There was, because you go in the room like 8 people at a time, and they were like, thank you. And I think they kept one person. And then I had moved to New York the next year, and they were going to be at the Javits Center auditioning. And so I said, I'm going to that. And I remember going through that process again. And it wasn't until after the audition that I realized, I'm pretty sure that was the same producer I sang for in Chicago. And I sang the same song. And I think it was Try a Little Tenderness. But I sang the same song. And so that time they said, okay, well, if you get a call from us by 5 o'clock, you've made it. And I was like, all right. And then I didn't get a call. And then I was doing like bar competitions, singing competitions in New York. And I just got done doing Stonewall Sensation. And a friend of mine said, there's this guy who produces this competition. He wants you to do it. And I was like, I'm not doing any more bar competitions. And this man chased me down, Peter Dunn. So I did So You Think You Can Belt. And so I didn't know that he used to be a producer for X Factor and America's Got Talent and stuff like that. So he got a message saying, Peter, can you recommend 10 people to audition for The Voice? And so I was one of his recommendations. And the guy contacted me. He said, we love it. We love it. And so they said, we want you to do a private audition. And so that's how I did it 3 times. On the 3rd time, I did a private audition, and that's how I got through.
So, so the private audition, what did you sing?
Oh, I think I'm pretty sure I sang Superstition by Stevie Wonder. And I sang, I'll Rise Up. That's what I sang. I sang I'll Rise Up. Because I think you had to have like 5 songs prepared. And I sang that. And I think I sang those 2 before they were like, they were over there whispering by that piano. And so then they were like, well, we're going to pass you through. And I was in such shock. I was like, what, me? Really? So yeah, those are 2 songs I sang.
Okay. So now you have made it to The Voice, or the in front of, no?
Yeah. So now they say, so you do the interview process, and then they say, okay, so they say, if we choose you, you move on to the executive auditions in LA. And so they say, just be ready, because some people can get a call as in advance as a week before or a day before. And I remember getting a call saying, we want to fly you to LA. And I think I had like 3 days before I was flying out. And so you go to LA and you do the executive auditions, and they give you a list of all these songs. And I think you pick your top 100 songs, and you pick your top 25. And I remember Try a Little Tenderness, I think was number one. And as I'm just going down the list, I'm seeing songs I know. And I had fallen in love with Joni's Mitchell, Both Sides Now, from watching the movie Love Actually. And I put that as number two. Now, I didn't really know the words to that song. so, but of course, those were the two songs they picked for my executive audition. And I was like, oh crap, like, what am I going to do? And I remember I would never forget looking in the mirror, getting ready, looking in the mirror and said, all right, Chris, this is all, like, you made it this far. It's either leave it all here or just forget about it. And so I remember I sang Try a Little Tenderness and they had me do Both Sides Now. And when I tell you I ooh and awed my way, I riffed and run right through it. I said, well, if I don't know it, make it sound good. And they and I was so shocked that they were like, you know. So then you have to, after they break it into two groups and they say there's an A and a B group, and you have a meeting and they're sitting in the conference. We were in the B group because the first group was in there, and so they tell you there if you've made it or not. And so we're sitting there watching and waiting for people to come out to see their faces, to see if they, you know, what their faces are given, to see if we. And so we couldn't tell, and this one girl was just so, and I was like, girl, you gotta calm down, like, because you're making me nervous. So we went into the team B meeting, and so they go, so we just want to let you know that you guys are still in consideration for casting for the, you know. So everybody goes crazy, and so I say, I'm like, what do they mean that you're still in the running? I said, that doesn't mean. So she explained. She said, that doesn't mean you made the show. And so I was like, oh, okay. So what is going on here? And so then that's when we learned for the process. When they come back for auditions, you're there for a month before auditions. And through that month, I think there's like 100 of us or something like that. And through that month, people are just like, for whatever reason or not, casting is, you know, check. I mean, because they check your social media, they do all this stuff. And so people are just getting calls saying, you know, casting has decided not to go forward with with continuing you. And so people are getting calls at 9 and out of there by 12. And I'm like, oh, this is this is crazy. So thank God, you know, and all these people are having like these breakdowns and stuff this whole month, and like, because we're also secluded, so you can't, you're at the hotel and you can't go, you can go only a mile radius from the hotel. And also when people tell you, like, I heard of this and I didn't believe it until we found out, like, there are people who find out where you are, like reporters and stuff, who are trying to find out who's auditioning. They're trying to pay you money to give them a list of who's auditioning. And also there was another reality show at the same hotel as us at the time. So it was nuts. But through this whole thing, people are like having these, and I'm like, listen, I'm like the one, I'm like, okay, it's gonna be all right. Like, you know, you made it here. And I remember the week before auditions, my friends were like, what are you going through? Because I'm like, I don't know. I was like, what if we don't make it? Like, we've been here so long, you know. And it really messes with your mind a little bit. You know, that's why I'm so glad that I have some like-minded people around me. I'm so glad that there's always some church folks that get accepted, because I was like, okay, so, you know, so I knew I had that support, and but yeah, so the week finally comes for auditions. They fly your family in. You don't see them. They take your phones away. You have no contact with anybody. And so on Monday they start auditions, and so auditions go from Monday to Friday, unless the teams get filled before that time, or, you know, whatever happens. And so my audition was the first to air, but I actually auditioned on Thursday. I auditioned on Thursday because they call you randomly the night before, and I think there was one kid who didn't get done, and he was a younger kid, and I felt so bad. But I got to audition on Thursday, and I remember being like, this, I mean, really, you can't, because somebody said, what is the thing you're thinking of the moment before you go on stage? I said, before that door opens, I'm literally thinking, like, okay, like, don't play with it, because if this is what I want to do for the rest of my life, this is where I need to show that at. And yeah, that's.
So is the auditions where the 4 chairs are, or are you still auditioning for? Okay.
So now it's so I mean, you do rehearsals with the band, and then you have a vocal coach that you do a couple of meetings with, and, you know, which, shout out to Bird, who was my vocal coach. That woman, I mean, again, like I said, like in my life, God has always sent just people for different times in my life, and I feel like just even for that month, that bird, my vocal coach. I mean, she just. I found recordings that I took with her in lessons, and I mean, just wise and just gave me nuggets, and and one thing she used to always say, she said, before she sings, she said, and she said, you should try that. She said, before I sing, I always put my hand out and I say, God, whenever I sing, let my light shine so that they see you through me. And I was like, I remember I said that before I got on stage, and I was like, man, like, God, you really got me. You just really just keep me covered. And yeah. And then I got out there and I was like, here we go. Then the music started. And because I mean, I know people know it's recorded, but I mean, it's recorded, but if you've messed up, there's no redos. There's no,
And it's
because
a
I think
live audience,
one of the
right?
contestants our season started on the wrong key. And ain't no starting. So
Well, as we always say, we're born for this. It's not an easy role for trailblazers. Um, you don't get the luxury to turn on, turn off.
mhm.
It's the moment when God calls your name and you got to do what you were created to do.
Yeah.
Um, so the moments on stage, and for those season 13, who were the judges that season?
So that season was Adam Levine, Miley Cyrus, Jennifer Hudson, and Blake Shelton.
Hmm.
Yeah.
So if um all four of them had not turned around, who in your mind you really wanted anyway?
So I wanted Jennifer. I wanted Jennifer. So in the moment of them pleading their why you should pick me, um, in my mind I said, which I'm very glad. I'm very grateful that I chose Jennifer. I love her. But in my mind I was like, I should have chosen. Maybe I should have chosen Adam. Just thinking strategically and just his plea was, but also so they do a lot of B-roll, like they film you like doing different stuff, and a lot of the B-roll that they had filmed was like me looking at pictures of Jennifer, me like, and so
Oh,
I was like, I don't think I could choose anybody else. Like they might kill me,
right.
But I mean, I'm so glad I did. I'm so glad I did.
Wow. So my friend, who's actually my hairdresser, Melanie Jones, is on right now. She just said congratulations,
Oh,
and
thank
she's the
you.
one who I was discussing earlier
All
about
right
waiting
now.
for her opportunity on The Voice. So in the chorus, she sings tenor, but she can sing all three parts.
Oh, I'm jealous. I miss it.
She's a beast. And so uh, those moments of you find yourself in with this, I find myself in the middle constantly of, you know what, you need to talk to her because you guys are, and it happens all the time. And yeah,
Oh,
she's commenting. So it's like,
I just saw.
yeah,
Was
okay.
this your first time? Was this your first audition? Because if you,
I'm not
because
sure. Oh, she just said
yeah,
she didn't get it. Okay.
because I auditioned 3 times, so you know, I mean, keep going because they're always looking for good singers. I mean, granted, it's gone down to one cycle a year now, but they are always looking for great singers. So, and I will tell you this, all in all, I tell people all the time, my experience on The Voice was absolutely amazing. Those people they're rock stars. They are great. They take care of you. And I think our season, they said that our season they said this was the most close knit season that they have ever seen in The Voice, the season I was on. So, I mean, you build a family and it was great. So just because I've heard that some other shows may not be
Yeah.
as. So.
So with being on The Voice, like I said, I didn't even know she was coming on tonight. So it was meant for this conversation to happen. So thank God for that. Let's get into these singles. Mary, did you know? Crying for and Take Your Time.
Yeah.
So before I do all that, give us a snippet of this voice of yours.
Oh, okay.
You can say whatever you want.
Okay. Uh,
I told you to warm it up.
Tis so sweet to trust in Jesus, just to take him at his word, just to rest upon his promise, just to know it was said by God. Jesus, Jesus, how I trust him, how I prove him more and know. Jesus, precious Jesus, oh, for grace to trust him more, him more.
Mm, you play too much. Anyway, you play entirely too much.
Bless you. That's one of my favorites. I love that song.
Mm, you make me want to sing, but I'm not. Anywho, so Mary, did you know? Um, so what was the connection with that particular song?
So, oh yeah, so Mary, did you know I came back and I was working in New York nightlife, and I think I got this wrapped up in this local celebrity, in this because people were asking me to sing at their parties who were, and I mean, and to tell you the guys on the streets, some of the people act like they don't know me today. So I'm like, so I get, of course that you're on this, people want, so it got wrapped up, got lost in that instead of thinking there's the bigger picture. And I'm a helper. I'm a person that I'm like, if my friends need me, I'm there. And it came to a point after 2 years where I realized, I remember a couple who was a couple got in an argument, and we realized something, and I remember in the middle of the street saying, "What am I doing?" I go, "I can't continue to do this." I go, I am so invested in helping others that so everybody's getting where they need to be. But what are you doing? What are you doing for your career? And honestly, that's where Mary Did You Know came from, because I said, you know what? I'm setting a deadline for myself. I'm going to record and I'm going to put a song out, because there's no reason why I haven't done that yet. And Mary Did You Know is one of my favorite Christmas songs. And I had never heard it till I got to college. And I was just telling this story the other day. I got to college, and I went to a small college. And so, people who worked in staff, they did other things. And so the director of admissions, Terry Crumley, who recruited me, she is a mezzo soprano who is out of this world. And I remember at a concert, she sang Mary Did You Know? And I was absolutely like floored. I was like, why are you working in admissions? Like, and from that moment, that song had always stuck, and it became one of my favorite songs. And so I remember I said, I'm going to see what I have to do to record this. And so I went through the licensing and just, to make sure I don't want to get sued or nothing. So I made sure I got the rights to do it. And I put the money together myself. And I think my dad helped me out with the rest of it. And I called the studio and they told me what the prices were. And I said, all right, let's do it. And I think the day of, I got the rest of the money to record that. And I connected with, how did I get connected with Gary? Some way I got connected with Gary Mitchell Jr., who is a phenomenal piano player. And we just began to get together and rehearse that. And we went in the studio and knocked it out. And I was like, I want that song to come out, for Christmas. And I had never put a song out, so I never knew about the like the with iTunes, like the licensing and distributing and all of this. And that song came out on Christmas Eve. Came out on Christmas Eve, and I remember being like, I'm like thinking about it. I'm like, thank you God, because I said I put that out there, and I said I want to do this, and yeah, a lot of people say like, what's the point of it coming out Christmas Eve? But for me, that was such a significant and a powerful thing for me to say that this song came out before Christmas. And so yeah, that was my first single.
Wow. And it did well.
Yeah, it did. It
So
did.
can we constantly keep saying it in your story is God is with you. And
Oh yeah.
it's amazing to hear the dots. And sometimes as the person that's affected the most, sometimes we don't really get to understand how much God loves you, how
Yeah.
much he's been looking out and caring for you, and you can't go nowhere if you wanted to.
It's so crazy because I realized that so this last year, so I was working at a church. So before the voice, I was working at Zoe Ministries, Bishop Bernard Jordan, the Archbishop, the Master Prophet, and so I still get calls from seeds that I've sown saying, to receive your prophetic prophecy, and I was getting so many calls at one point from different prophets, and the one, and I would always write them down, and the one underlying thing they kept saying, you have unmeasurable, they go and they would emphasize it. They say, God favors you so much, you have unmeasurable favor with God. And it was so crazy because even that you see him working in that, and you think about like the things that happen, and you're like, man, I look at other people's situations where they should have been like where they were down and out, and I should have been at that place. But at the last minute, something always happened, and God worked it out. And so it's crazy because I think about like when I had to move, and my dad goes, "Are you not worried?" And I go, "No, not really." He goes, "How do you not worry about this stuff?" I said, "Because at the end of the day, I mean, it just has to work, right?" And so he's like, "No, it's crazy." But again, God did it. So
Absolutely. So let's talk about Crying For. What was that song about?
crying for, I was working at the church, and one of the singers, Nina Barker, she had a phenomenal voice, and we just clicked. And I was like, Nina, I want you to write for me. And she said, I already have some songs. She's a writer, a poet, and she's everything. She's a teacher. She does so many things. But I remember we went to Starbucks one day, and she just started reading me some lyrics to songs she had already written. And I remember I sat there and I started crying. I was like, it's like you literally wrote this for me. It's like you wrote these songs for me. And we were sitting there, and I remember she came to my house, and she started telling me about Crying For, and I was like, oh, okay. Wow. I like this. So we started working on it, and the pandemic happened. And we were like, okay, well, I guess we're going to wait to record this. And I remember he called me, or I called her, and the other was like, I was just about to call you, because we both at the same moment were getting ready to call each other to say, we don't need to wait till after the pandemic. This song is for what's going on right now. And it was just that was crazy. So we were like, okay, well, let's do this. And so I contacted a friend of mine, Mark Newton, who he produced CeeLo Green's album. And I said, Mark, I want to, that brought the song. He was like, I would love to work on this. And so Mark Newton produced this single, and we went in the studio and did it. And we were we were trying to say that it was the post-pandemic anthem, because the words of the song was like, what are you crying for? Look at all these open doors. The end is just the beginning of a brand new day. So saying, get up and live. You have so much to give. And so it was such an uplifting song, and we really, really wanted to reach people and lift people up, and that's what they needed at that time. And so that's what Crying For came out of.
Wow, that is an awesome time, because again, the timing of of it is we went through mm,
Yeah.
uh to the moment of so many deaths, so many just devastating here today, gone tomorrow.
Yeah. I mean, it was people who I knew were like the strongest of people who you like they're gonna live a long time, you know. And then all of a sudden you get a call that these people. I was like, what? And I lost my dad in 2020, but not the COVID. It was unrelated, but it was just I was like, wow. After all of that, and then my dad, and then so it was just such a crazy time. And me, my friends used to always say, I know you love to be around people. Da, 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 da. He's like, sometimes I just like to be alone. I will tell you, the pandemic taught me because I was like, I was staying in a first place, and I was living there by myself, and I was like, when they shut everything down, the pandemic taught me that I do not mind being alone. And I was, because I was always around people, and the one thing it taught me is just how to be by myself
Mm-hmm.
and be okay with that. And so, yeah, and I think that the pandemic was actually such a training ground for me. It was devastating in a lot of ways, but it was really a time of growth for me. And so
And take your time.
yes, take your time, take your time. So my shout out to my publicist Yvonne Forbes. She was like, we need to get a song out there. We need to do something, And so she said, I'm gonna connect you with one of my clients. And so she connected me with Brian Nelson, and we were on the phone talking about the song we were gonna do. And I don't know. Again, I don't know how, but this talking about the song ended up talking about multiple songs, and ended up talking about working on a project together. Ended up talking about starting a label, and then here we are. So, and so we Sophie St. James wrote "Take Your Time" because we used to get on every week and do writing sessions as a group. And with one of these weeks, she brought the song, and they were like, and I was like, oh, I like that. And so, um, and then we recorded a bunch of songs, and they said this is going to be the single. So I was like, all right,
Mm-hmm.
let's do it. And the response was, but I'll be honest with you, because I don't know if I was like, take your time, it's gonna be the single, And so, but the response was it was very unexpected, but very very. I was very grateful, and so I love that song now. Yeah, so that's how that came about. From we were in a songwriting session, and Sophie wrote that song.
Wow. Um, as always, like I said, it's just amazing to hear and see that God has definitely favored you. God has really orchestrated everything to do with you,
Hmm.
even to this day. Tell us about touring with Booker T. Jones.
Yeah, so he was actually in New York a couple of days ago. So I get a call from my agent, a message from my agent saying, this she goes, so Booker T. I just got a message from people from Booker T. Jones, and they want to, they want you to do some shows with them. And I go, and at first I was like, didn't really understand the whole, So I was like, okay. So she sent me the contract, and I was like, I'll do it. And it's just, she was like, they're gonna fly you out to LA for rehearsal, and then everything will be covered. And so that was last summer, and I'll tell you, it's crazy. So Booker T, he was with Stax Records. So back in the day, if it wasn't Motown, you were with Stax. So he worked with like Otis Redding and the Staple Singers, and and he tells these stories about me, and I'm like, every time I'm on stage, I'm just like, how is this happening right now? But I went, and they remember his daughter saying to me, this is the first. Oh no, his wife said to me, Nan, she goes, this is the first time that we have actually ever hired somebody without auditioning them first. And it's because their daughter saw me on The Voice. It was like, I think there's somebody who you guys should try out. And so and it's been great. Like I think the band now, I think Booker said this is probably one of the best bands he's worked with, and so I'm like, thank you, God. You know, to be in to sit under the tutelage of such greatness, and to learn and to watch. I mean, that's a smooth man, that Booker T. Jones. So, and I'm so grateful for it. And it's great. I get to travel so much. You know, we're headed
Yeah.
up. We'll be in Austin next weekend. We'll be in Austin. So
That is amazing. I'm always I had a cousin tell me that you never want history and experience to go to the grave without being tapped into. And so
yes,
to be able to see it, hear it, touch it, take that and apply it to your life is one of the best experiences
oh
ever.
yes.
Um, so yeah, take that all in. Um, I'm sure there's going to be music that comes out of the experience for you. And so I'm looking forward to that. The last thing that I wanted to hit on is that you won an award for the rising LGBTQ, all these letters, Lord have mercy.
I know.
That's a lot of letters. I'm like,
Yeah.
so how did you win this award?
So this was so I had done some events. So the Black Fairy Godmother, Simone, she has an organization. She deals with domestic. She handles situations with domestic violence. Like they get women out of their homes like immediately and put them into safe spaces and such like that. So I did a couple events with them through my publicist, and got to work with them. And I actually, I'll tell you the truth, I went to this event and I thought I was just going to sing. So, and then all of a sudden they said we're presenting the award, and I go, what? So, and I was so honored, and you, when you read it, you're never like, I don't know if this was a Trailblazer award, but then you stop and think like you're doing things that people haven't done, and you're doing things that opening doors that haven't been opened. And it's so crazy because I tell people all the time, I always, everybody, I think everybody wants to grow up and be a part of something big. And so I think that it just hadn't happened the way I thought it would happen.
Mm-hmm.
And so, but I'm so grateful that it's happening, and I'm thankful that God chose me to do it. And I think that was really a conversation I had to have with myself as well. Like, all right, are you going to do this? Because this is a on taking that and so I'm very grateful for it. Very grateful.
Absolutely. We don't know sometimes the bigger picture. Hey, Rob. You never know sometimes the bigger picture that God's gonna put you in front of people. God's gonna um, put you around a cast of people who not only believe in you, and you believe in them. You become their heart. Like I'm a hugger. I love being around people. Um, my nickname is Sunshine, so when I come in, it's like
Yep.
not because I'm light. I just want to.
You have this aura, yes.
Yes, I just want people to feel loved because
Mhm.
I remember when I didn't feel loved. I
Mm.
remember when there was dark days, and I just wanted somebody to just be like, "You want a hug?" And I'm like, "Yeah." So
Yeah.
without asking, that's what I'm going to give.
Yeah.
And then there's the natural connector, the mom, I just want to nurture you. Because we don't know what people go through on a day-to-day basis.
That's why I tell people that you never know what somebody's going through.
You smile, you laugh, you do all these things, but you got a broken heart.
Mm-hmm.
And just me seeing you does something
Yep.
for me. And so just hearing your voice does something for me. To see somebody win does something for me. It's not nothing selfish about me.
Yep.
There's nothing, no jealous bone or nothing. I want us all to win. We deserve that. So again, these are the moments that I take in when I meet certain people and I connect with you. It's for life.
Mm-hmm.
It's not just for that moment. I'm checking in. I'm like, you might fall in my spirit, like, hey, you having a good day?
Yeah.
What's going
Yes.
on with you? And they be like, how did you know? Well, God put you in my spirit for a reason. And so again, this I never met you in person, and most of my guests I haven't.
Mm-hmm.
But it's still a connection.
Yes.
Um
Indeed.
just for you to realize that God hand is on you no matter where you go. I don't care if it's to Pluto, I don't care. God is gonna make a way for you because you trust in him, you believe him, and he's gonna always make a way for you. And so um if you guys want to follow him, not if, when, you should.
Yeah.
His IG is Chris Weaver. Facebook is Chris Weaver. He has a TikTok, CJ Weaver _ music. Again, these are his handles. Please follow, please support.
Yes.
We
Amazing.
can't do anything without you guys. This is our village. We got to make sure that we supporting one another. And that's that. So, did you want to say anything to the people, or did I miss anything? I don't think I did.
No, that was well. I do. I cannot leave here without when you talk about God putting people who in your life who want you to win, and you trust them and they trust you. I have to give a shout out to my label, Sound Heard Records, because that literally, and if I didn't know, I got confirmation from a stranger that's what that is. So I am so grateful for them and their diligence with me. And also, I tell people all the time, because people say, if you could if there's one thing you can let people know, I always tell people you have one life, so live it. Make sure you live it.
Absolutely. One of the things that has been coming up to me lately is smile. You're on God's candid camera. And back in the day, there used to be the show Candid Camera. And he was just like, regardless of what's going on, I still see you. So smile.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, wow, okay. Granted, you had your moments, but he's like, no, smile, because I got it.
Yep. And even in that, like I tell people all the time, just you don't know what your smile can do for people. A smile can change somebody's day.
Absolutely. I do have some housekeeping things, or as they say, FYI. Last October I was able to publish my first book, and it is called The Blueprint, God's Design. God told me to sit down and reset, because I was going off the hinges. And he said, you got to go back to the beginning. And sometimes you could do this several times. You're going to do that.
Yeah.
You need to do that instead of, being stubborn and hard headed, which I do a lot, unfortunately. You have to ask for help, start over. It's okay. And we're all going to be victorious in that, for realizing that you need to sometimes sit down and reset, talk to God, because he got the master plan. So that is it is on Amazon. You can put in my first name, last name, and it'll come up, or you can use the link. If you want to keep the lights on, literally, since I'm at my home, you can donate to Cash App, which is Sunshine Camila, KAMILAH. Is all donations are accepted, of course.
Yes.
I appreciate it. Thank you in advance. And my friend, Alita Cotton, who does awesome ginger and turmeric teas. When I tell you, need I say more? She is on Facebook as AYECEE. She has her own phone number to her T line. Come on, somebody. ACTs, her number is 313-380-0321. Again, 313-380-0321. Again, be kind to someone. Smile, give yourself grace. Again, smile, you on God's candid camera. I believe in 6 degrees of separation. You're literally one person away, one advice away, one help away from where you need to be in your destiny, proven over and over again. And I had an awesome time with you. Awesome.
Oh, I had a great time. This was great.
Awesome time with you. And I look forward to everything that you got coming up. Again, I will be getting on all your social media to follow you,
Thank you.
and pushing my people to be your people. That's how.
Well, I'll do the same. Yes.
So again, thank you for coming in tonight. Again, I have another show at 9 o'clock tonight with a vegan chef who does vegan desserts here in the city of Detroit. She'll be on tonight. Normally, I don't do 2 shows, but because of our schedule, it is what it is. So I have that show tonight. And then I'll be back again on this Thursday with Gwen Nation Spencer, who is an awesome dynamic actress and singer. Oh my God. So again, once we're off, I will send you the link for you to share however you want to. This belongs to you. Again. And I will see you soon.
Oh, sorry. And
Yeah.
my EP Contemplation is available on all music streaming platforms. I forgot about that.
All right. We will make sure that we will support that again. Thank you for coming through tonight to open up and share your story with us. I'm sure someone got something awesome out of this conversation tonight. So again, I will see you guys shortly in the next hour with Chantel Jones, the vegan chef, and we will catch up with Chris Weaver later.
Bye, guys.
Peace.